born in 1937. Now, you say, well, I say just after the Depression. Well, you say the Depression was in 1929. Well, the Depression kept going for years. I have a story my grandfather told. Well, he put it in writing. My dad had it in writing and with his life added on. And the banks allowed them, I guess it was the banks, anyway, allowed them 10 years to pay off the back taxes on the farm. And that's how long it took them. 10 years to pay off the back taxes. Because the Depression went on and on and on. There were things you simply couldn't buy. Mother couldn't buy sugar to can fruit with. She had to learn how to make syrup for canning fruit out of something called dextrose syrup. Okay? It was brown. We didn't think it looked too good. After white sugar and beautiful peaches and apples and things in a jar, this syrup was brown. Oh my gosh. So everybody was poor. I mean, everybody was poor. We saved string. There was no tape on manufacture yet for us to have to, if we had to send a package somewhere, wrapped package. No, you tied it with string. Well, string was expensive. If you could get it, you couldn't go to the store now. You see more kinds of string and different sizes of balls of string than you can imagine. There was no string to buy. We saved string, okay? Everybody was poor. We ate from the garden. That's what a homestead farm was to live year-round on. Fruit, meat, eggs, milk, whatever. The farm was not just for us. We had Seattle relatives. I heard later from my cousin who overheard her parents talking, and I had never heard this from my own parents. But my cousin Gail said that her mom had said, I don't know what we ever would have done if it hadn't been for Grandpa Ezra's farm. Because they knew there were apple trees there. They knew there were chickens that laid eggs there. They knew there was homemade butter. I knew we were supplying eggs and butter on a routine basis to our Seattle relatives. But I had no idea of what that really meant to them. People did not have cash. Even if it was in the store, which it probably wasn't, you didn't have cash. There was a lot of share and share, whatever you had. Some things were more obvious to me as a child. I didn't realize I knew that we would get garden stuff. We would accept what somebody else had in order to give, and we would exchange with them. Even if we maybe had some lettuce, it might not have been the kind they had. We were grateful, but we had more carrots than we could eat, okay, or something, and so we were trading in that way too. Whoever stuff was coming on first would share what they had coming on first. So there were some things that I was more aware of than others. I was especially aware in winter. Everybody knew the day that the men had set aside, the Saturday that the men had set aside to start getting in wood for the older people in the valley. Okay, so this fits into the scheme of things.
To the barter society.
To the barter society. But this was just good of their heart, because when the men were older, they couldn't manage to be cutting the cross cuts that were later split for firewood. The older men couldn't do that anymore. When it came to the older people's place, it had been half prepped. The wood was half prepped to where they could cut it. Because see, I could chop wood, and I did. That was one of my jobs. but it came to me half prepped, because either my dad had taken the big circle, put wedges in it to split it, so that it was of a size that I could manage. And so they did that for the older people. You accepted what they had to offer you. They may have been trying to pay you back for welding that my dad did. Okay, so we accepted what they had to give. We gave something in exchange. Okay, and it was all out of the sincerity of anyone's heart. Okay, so when mowing was, especially mowers broke more often than anything else. So when they were mowing grass in the field to make hay, you mow, you take time to have something to drink and a sandwich, and then you mow until dark. And if your mower breaks, you are in tough straits. So my dad, who was loving to do mechanics better than farming anyway, was happy to repair mechanical stuff. I can remember when I went to bed at night and we would say, where is Daddy? Or something. Mom would point out the window, the light was on in the shop, because he was still working on somebody's mower. He would work until 2 and 3 in the morning. Why? As soon as the milking were done, they were going to be mowing again the next day. So all of this fit into a way of life. But it was all called work, if you want to. But it was also living. That's what it was called. It was life. It was living. Sitting around, polishing your toenail and twiddling your fingers was not part of life. It wasn't part of life. Life was keeping yourself alive. That's why you did these things, so that you could live through the winter or enjoy the summer. One of my favorite comments is that by the time guys in their realm, young men in their realm, in the field, on the farm, doing whatever, they knew everything to do. They knew how to do everything that needed to be done. And I mean, by the time they were 16, they were hiring out on somebody else's farm if they were a poor family. I mean, that means you already knew how to do it when you were 14, and that means you were learning how to do it when you were 12. And you were watching it being done and helping when you were 10 and 8. There was no time for doing nothing. Every hour was important. And there have been times, earlier than my grandfather's time, but there have been times when people froze to death in the winter or starved to death in the winter. Now that might go back a ways, and I'm sorry if it was allowed to happen and there weren't enough people to help other people, you know, but you had to take care of your own first, and that's why you worked to have what you needed for yourself, because there might be somebody less fortunate than you.
Hey folks, like, subscribe, tell your friends. It really does help, and it helps the channel grow, it helps us get higher in the search engines, and if you do feel like you can, please donate and help us out on the journey and help us restore this boat. We have a Patreon link. We also have a PayPal link on our website.